Luong Ung, in her best-selling autobiography, First They Killed My Father, outlines her experience as a Cambodian refugee. She solemnly writes, "I think how the world is still somehow beautiful, even when I feel no joy at being alive within it." I want you to keep those words in mind as I tell you my parents' story. Before I tell you their story, I could go into a lot of small details. I could tell you specifically how they arrived here in Massachusetts. I could talk about their time they spent in refugee camps in Thailand or Vietnam or the Philippines. I could tell you about the generosity of Catholic sponsors who sponsored my father to come here. But it's not really about the little details. Of course they matter, but it's more about the bigger story and what it represents. Let me start with my mother. My mother was born in Battambang, a major city in Cambodia. And at the time, it was split into two main sections. There was the main city and villages on the outskirts. She was born in one of these villages. She was born to her mother and her older sister, who was about 2 years older than her, and her father. My mother's father was a pilot technician for the military, working for the old government. And this meant two things. One, he was educated, and two, he worked for the old government. So Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge saw him as a threat to the society they were trying to establish, pure communism. And he was taken away. In fact, my grandmother tells me that the day he was taken away was the day my mother first started kicking in the womb. My mother never knew her father, and her father never knew him. My father's story is somewhat similar. He was also born in Battambang, but he was born more in the city area versus the villages where my mother was born. He was born to his mother and his father. His father was a military official working directly in the government, and as you can imagine, he too would be taken away. My parents never knew their fathers, and I would never get to know my grandfathers. My parents worked so hard to succeed in America. They came from an entirely different country, Cambodia, and worked their way up in America to get to where they are today. My father came here with nothing, literally. He had the clothes on his back and whatever few possessions he gathered from his time he spent in the refugee camps in Thailand and later the Philippines. He came to Lynn, Massachusetts, where he attended Lynn Classical High School, and he enjoyed it there. He was the soccer captain of the varsity team and was an all-star athlete. He graduated from high school and later went to Salem State College, as it was known back then. He attained a degree in business management and worked hard, saving money, and he started to invest in residential real estate. My mother, on the other hand, started her journey in America in Florida, where she was staying with her uncle. She stayed there for a while before coming up to Lynn, Massachusetts as well, where she attended Lynn English High School, the other high school in Lynn. She worked just as hard as my father and is now a paraprofessional. My father, sometimes when I'm alone with him, whether we're on a drive or doing yard work or sharing a meal together, will tell me that he never imagined having the life he has today when he was my age. He never imagined having the possessions that we have. We have a beautiful home situated on a picturesque 7 acres of land. We have chickens in a chicken coop. We have an old horse barn that we're renovating. We have cars. We have so many of these material things. And most importantly, we have a John Deere tractor that not only plows snow in the winter, but mows the lawn in the summer. But he compares the life he has now to the life he had when he was around my age. Because when he was my age, he was in the Philippines. He was in a refugee camp, and he didn't really know who he was. Yes, he was born in Cambodia and spoke the native language of Cambodia, which is Khmer, but he was also living in the Philippines and previously lived in Thailand and was trying to get ready to move to America. Although he would never admit it, he gets emotional when he talks about his life then and his life now. My parents worked hard to get to where they are today and to where I am today. I feel it is my responsibility to work just as hard as they did to be successful in life. And as my father says, success is not measured by how much money you have, but rather by where you started and where you end up. That makes my parents the two most successful people I know. My siblings and I tried to fill in their footsteps and follow the path they set out for us. My oldest sister is at WPI currently, studying biomedical engineering, and should go to medical school after. My other oldest sister is at Quinnipiac University, where she's studying to get a doctorate in physical therapy. And I'm going to Tufts University in the fall. My younger sister is currently a freshman in high school, so she has some time to figure that out. But I guess one message is that not only should you work hard at being the best at something or improving yourself, but work hard at preserving who you are and what your ideals are. Because in life, there are people who try to change you, who try to strip you of your identity and transform you into somebody that you're not. For my parents, that was Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. My parents, when they were younger, wanted a life of peace, prosperity, and wealth in Cambodia. But that couldn't happen. So they came to America, started from the bottom, and worked their way up. In life, it is up to you whether you want to give up or to persevere. My parents chose to persevere, and that's why I'm here today telling you their story. Thank you.